revealed why you're meant for a divine purpose, not just to belong, a prophetic awakening. In the heart of a quaint English village, where ancient stones of the church bore witness to countless prayers, Sarah's restless heart felt like an echo lost among the worn pews. She was a devoted mother, juggling her two lively children while her spirit felt drained, like an old lamp flickering under the weight of mundane days. Amidst her noble intentions and deep faith, insecurity whispered lies of inadequacy. Each evening, as dusk draped the village in a gentle twilight, she sat in prayer, fingers brushing against the well-loved pages of her Bible. That night, the verses seemed to shimmer under candlelight, glowing with a promise of purpose, a divine calling that beckoned her like a lighthouse in the fog. "Seek and you shall find." The words danced in her mind. A glimmer of hope sparked within her chest. She resolved to seek counsel from Pastor Thomas, whose wisdom glowed like the softest candle. Clad in humility reflective of his faith, he smiled gently at Sarah, assuring her that she was not just a face among the congregation. She was a beloved daughter of God, designed for something extraordinary. "Pray earnestly, dear Sarah," he encouraged, "and wait for his revelation." In those next days, Sarah embarked on her spiritual journey with renewed vigor. However, the heavens seemed to shift ominously when her young son received a shocking medical diagnosis. Her heart splintered at the sound of words like serious and treatment, each syllable darkening the edges of her fragile faith. "Where are you, God?" she cried one night. The walls of their cozy home echoed her despair, but together they knelt in fervent prayer, voices entwined, pleading for a miracle. Moments later, at a community prayer group, Sarah gathered her courage and shared her fears. It was a moment of vulnerability, the air thick with unspoken empathy. Her fellow church members surrounded her, folding her into their embraces like the warmest blanket, their prayers swirling around her like a tapestry of faith. The bond they shared ignited a fire within, the kind of faith that could bend heavens. Then came an exquisite moment, an encounter with a stranger in the village square, a figure who radiated an unearthly calm. "I am here," they spoke gently, "a messenger sent to remind you of your divine purpose." The stranger's words poured into Sarah's heart like honey. She felt a warmth, an energy that shot through her limbs, filling her with hope and clarity beyond her previous understanding. Could it be? Was this a divine intervention meant solely for her? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the village prepared for a prayer vigil to support her family, the atmosphere burst with anticipation. Different voices mingled, each prayer rising like incense into the heavens. The air felt charged with belief, binding every soul together, reminding Sarah of the strength in unity. But tension surged through her being as doubts clawed at the edges of her conviction, challenging the prophetic essence she had come to embrace. Just before dawn, Sarah found herself in the chapel, the soft glow of candlelight dancing around her. An unresolved question echoed in her heart: could her purpose be tied to her son's healing? Kneeling, she called out for guidance, the silence heavy yet pregnant with possibility. What revelation might unveil next? Would her journey lead to a miraculous breakthrough for her family? With bated breath, she waited for a sign, yearning for the divine whisper that could forever alter the course of her life and that of her beloved village. As dawn broke, a soft glow poured through the stained glass windows, casting vibrant mosaics onto the chapel floor. Sarah remained on her knees, heart racing with anticipation. Was this the moment she had fervently prayed for? The stillness weighed upon her, yet within that silence lay an unshakable whisper of hope. "Dear God," she breathed, "I trust in your plan." The words felt like a lifeline, buoying her spirits amidst the storm of uncertainty. Suddenly, a warmth washed over her, as if the very love of heaven wrapped around her shoulders. The chapel shimmered with a divine light that illuminated the ache in her heart. "I see you," came a familiar voice, resonating deep within her soul. It was Pastor Thomas, appearing now in the doorway, his face radiant and full of grace. "God is here, Sarah, guiding you," he smiled with a gentle reassurance. "Many are praying for you and your son. The weight of your doubt is heard, but faith carries the promise. You are on the verge of a new revelation." His words washed over her like the morning sun, filling the void of despair she held for so long. In that moment, sparks of courage ignited within her, a flicker of the extraordinary purpose waiting to be discovered. She imagined her son, a healthy boy playing in the field with joyful laughter, free from the burdens of illness. Hope began to bloom. She understood that her focus could tilt from fear to faith. Gathering her composure, Sarah jumped to her feet, the heaviness in her heart replaced by anticipation. "We will pray," she declared, "not just for healing, but for direction, for understanding. What does God wish to unveil through this trial?" Pastor Thomas joined her, kneeling before the altar, and they unified their prayers, their voices weaving together like powerful arrows directed toward the heavens. Each plea became a declaration of trust in God's promise of purpose. The congregation, drawn by the Spirit's call, began to trickle into the chapel, creating a sacred circle of devotion. As the sanctuary filled, Sarah felt an undeniable shift in the atmosphere, a collective energy of faith that surged through everyone present. Members of the church clasped hands, forming a chain of connected hearts, united by their fervent prayers. Voices harmonized as they pleaded for strength and healing. Tears fell freely, not from sorrow, but from the shared love and belief in divine intervention. Moments turned into hours, yet Sarah could feel the heartbeat of divinity resonating in the room. Suddenly, a burst of laughter erupted from her children who had played outside unnoticed by the gathering. Their innocent joy pierced through the veil of tension, drawing smiles on weary faces. It was a reminder that amidst the trials, there existed a lingering grace. "Lord," Sarah prayed, "let this laughter be a sign. Pour your spirit of joy into our lives." Hope surged deeper in her spirit. Could joy and healing be intertwined, showing them the path toward divine purpose? As the vigil came to a close, Pastor Thomas rose and shared a prophetic message that both excited and unnerved Sarah. "Do not fear the storms. For every trial is a chance to grow. The healing will come, but you will discover that your journey leads not just to restoration, but to an awakening for this entire village." A chill ran through Sarah, electrifying her soul. Was her purpose about much more than her son's healing? Was she being called to inspire transformation within her community? The beautiful mystery loomed large, still undefined. What awaited her? What next steps were hidden within God's grand design? As anticipation hung palpably in the air, she felt that she was on the edge of something monumental. With her heart racing, Sarah realized she would have to be ready for anything. What adventurous revelations was God preparing to reveal next? The journey was just beginning. The sun dipped lower, casting golden rays as the afternoon approached, a reminder of the relentless passage of time. Sarah remained in the chapel, her heart still echoing with Pastor Thomas's words. Each beat felt like a drum urging her toward the unknown. "What am I meant to do, Lord?" she whispered, feeling the weight of the divine calling heavy yet exhilarating in her spirit. The candles flickered around her, illuminating a path as her eyes began to scan the sanctuary. It felt as though every marbled surface, every worn hymn book contained secrets longing to be uncovered. Just then, a new voice emerged, cutting through the silence. "Sarah." It was Miriam, one of the church elders. The urgency in her tone made Sarah turn. "Miriam, what is it?" she replied, a flutter of anxiety dancing through her. Miriam rushed forward, her eyes gleaming with fervor. "I had a vision during our prayers. It was about you and your son. You are being called to help those who feel hopeless, who wander lost within their pain." Sarah felt her breath seize for a moment. "But I don't know how. I can barely even help myself." "Oh, but that's the beauty of it. Miriam exclaimed, her hands clasping Sarah's. God doesn't call the equipped. He equips the called. Just as He is transforming your heart, He will transform you into a beacon for others. An awakening stirred deep within Sarah. Could her trials serve a greater purpose? Could her pain pave the way for others to find hope? Uncertainty danced with excitement in her mind. I feel it deep in my soul, Sarah confessed, warmth flooding through her. I must be willing to share my journey. Exactly. Miriam nodded, her voice a soft echo of encouragement. People need to see that they are not alone in their struggles. You can show them what faith looks like in the darkest moments. You can share your story of healing. But doubt crept back in like a silent shadow. What if I fail? What if my own struggle isn't resolved? Miriam squeezed her hand tighter. Faith is not about certainty. It's about trust. You'll never know the heights of His help until you step out in faith. Remember, He is with you in every next step. Moments passed as they stood in the glimmering light of the chapel. Words unsaid lingered like unplayed notes in the air. Sarah felt the stirring of disquiet settle. It was both a challenge and a promise interwoven into her heart. Returning to her knees, she clasped her hands together, taking a deep breath. Lord, I am willing. Show me the way. As her voice filled the chapel, the warmth embraced her once more, pouring over her like a waterfall of grace. It was as if heaven itself responded, wrapping her in an embrace of reassurance. Around them, the congregation began to hum a familiar song about hope and redemption. Every heart resonated in unison, a reminder that their prayers lingered through every note. Sarah believed, possibly more than ever, that a greater plan was unfolding. After the song faded, cheers erupted, bears of community joy spilling over, but Sarah stood in silent reverie, feeling the urgency pulse through her veins. The weight of responsibility was immense, yet she felt it lightened by her faith. As the evening shadows stretched long into the chapel, Sarah knew something sacred was shifting. What exactly it would mean remained cloaked in divine mystery. How would she reach those in need? And could she truly play a role in transforming their lives? With anticipation rooted in her heart, she could only wonder. What would become of her journey now that she was being called to rise? What unfolding stories awaited her own transformation? The sunset bathed the old chapel in a soft embrace of orange and pink, casting a warm glow that felt almost sacred. Sarah knelt in quiet contemplation, her heart still racing from the revelation that had just unfurled before her. She sensed that the call she received was not merely for her, but also for others. Something alive within her wondered who might be waiting for the hope she'd share. As she sat, the murmurs of conversation began to drift through the open doors. Community members were gathering outside, laughter mixing with the fragrant evening air. With each sound, her resolve grew stronger. They needed to hear her story not only for their sake but also for hers. As she rose to join the others, an invisible thread seemed to tie her heart to her fellow believers. Miriam followed closely behind, her supportive presence a gentle reminder that every step mattered. "You're not alone in this, Sarah," she said softly, her voice radiant like the candles inside. "Remember that every time we open up, we shine a little more light into the world." Sarah smiled, her spirit ignited by Miriam's words. Together, they stepped outside, the evening gathering already forming around the picnic tables laden with treats from the potluck. Familiar faces filled the scene, yet they felt new, each one a potential ally in this sacred venture of hope. As they made their way through the crowd, Sarah caught snippets of conversation, struggles shared over casseroles, laughter mingling with moments of sorrow. She felt an unexpected swell of compassion rise in her heart. Could she step forward and speak? Did she have a story worth sharing? Her thoughts skittered around like leaves in the wind. "Miriam," she said hesitantly, "what do I say? How do I tell them about my journey?" "Start with honesty," Miriam encouraged, her eyes shining with inspiration. "Let them see your heart. That S where they connect. You've faced darkness and they may too." Taking a breath, Sarah nodded, feeling the weight of her fears begin to lift. Perhaps her journey was not merely to be endured but to be shared as a tapestry of faith. She stood at the edge of a small gathering, watching as people shared their joys and trials with sincerity. The community was a living testament to God's work. Finally, as murmurs subsided, Sarah's heart began to race. She knew she needed to speak. With an encouraging nudge from Miriam, she stepped forward, her voice quiet but firm. "Can I have your attention, please?" she called out. A hush fell over the crowd, curiosity painting their faces. "I've had a powerful experience," she began, her heart thumping in her chest. "And I believe that through our struggles, your struggles, there is a possibility for something beautiful to emerge." As she spoke, Sarah felt each word resonate with hope, each sentence carrying a piece of her deeper truth. She recounted her journey, the pain, the hopelessness, but most importantly, the flicker of faith that had breathed life back into her soul. Every emotion clung to her sisters and brothers, like a palpable thread stitched into the fabric of their shared lives. As soon as she finished, murmurs of support rippled through the crowd. Tears gleamed in the eyes of listeners who had witnessed resilience in her struggle. Yet amidst the warmth of accepting smiles, a subtle apprehension lurked at the edges of Sarah's heart. Had her words been enough? Would they stay with those who needed the light she had found? As the crowd began to share their own snippets of experience, Sarah felt a surge of belonging unlike any before. The community stood together, hearts intertwining, woven by a shared sense of purpose and newfound strength. This was just the beginning. She realized a fragmented story in a larger narrative of grace. As she glanced around, filled with joy and wonder, uncertainty flickered in her gaze. What would her next step be as she walked deeper into this calling? A voice whispered through her soul, inviting her to listen once again to the whispers of heaven. She felt the stirring like the cool evening breeze, carrying with it the fragrance of promises yet to unfold. With her heart alight, Sarah sensed she was on the brink of something transformative, not just for herself, but for many. What would be revealed next in this story of hope? How would she weave the threads of her journey into a shared legacy of divine purpose? As the sounds of laughter enveloped her, Sarah felt the warm current of fellowship wrap around her like a cozy blanket. It was as if the air itself vibrated with shared stories, heartaches, and triumphs. Each voice chimed in a symphony of resilience, creating a beautiful tapestry of community that she had longed to be part of. Miriam, standing beside her, seemed to glow with encouragement. "See, this is what we were made for. Sharing, supporting, lifting each other up. You started something when you spoke, Sarah." Her heart swelled with gratitude, and yet something deeper urged her on. A greater calling nudged at the fringes of her soul, whispering that the time had come for her to not only belong but to lead. As the evening rolled on, more stories began to surface. One by one, faces painted with emotion emerged from the shadows, sharing their trials. Jack spoke of his battle with unemployment, while Mary opened up about her loneliness after losing her husband. Their pain hung in the air, but so did a palpable sense of hope. It sparked within Sarah, illuminating forgotten corners of her own heart. "Maybe this is what God meant for me all along," she thought, a flicker of inspiration igniting within her. She talked to Miriam about the idea of forming a support group, a gathering for those who struggled and thirsted for connection. We could call it Threads of Grace, where each person's story helps weave a brighter picture. Miriam's eyes sparkled with excitement. "That's beautiful. It's like a quilt, made up of different pieces but warm and comforting together. We can help them see that their struggles are part of a greater plan." As the sun dipped further beneath the horizon, Sarah felt a calling surge like a wave, urging her to share the vision she had begun to form. "Can I have your attention again?" she called out, her voice ringing clear above the chatter. This time, curiosity shifted into anticipation. Faces turned toward her, eyes sparking with a light that felt electric. "Tonight, I see a gathering of hearts united by struggles and triumphs. But I fear it's not enough for us to simply share our burdens. We must also lift one another towards healing," she urged, feeling the words bubbling forth from a place deep within. I want to invite anyone who feels alone or overwhelmed to join me in creating something sacred, where we can weave our stories together. A support group where we can find strength in one another, threads of grace. Together, we can transform our pain into purpose. There was a moment of silence before a gentle applause broke out like gentle rain. The warmth blossomed, and murmurs of agreement filled the air. Sarah sensed not just support, but enthusiasm sparking amongst her community. The hope she had shared wasn't just hers, it belonged to all of them. Yet even in the midst of this exhilarating moment, doubt loomed like a dark cloud. What if I can't lead them well? What if I stumble? What if her heart raced? Miriam placed a hand on Sarah's shoulder, grounding her. You don't have to have all the answers. Just be yourself. Lean into God's guidance every step of the way. Trust your heart, it knows the way. As they concluded the evening with a prayer circle, Sarah felt a renewed sense of purpose enveloping her. Each hand clasped in connection radiated warmth, filling her with an inexplicable peace. Jet-black night draped the chapel, yet the flames of faith illuminated their faces, representing hope anew. In those moments, the mysteries of purpose and connection danced in her mind. They were threads, weaving a design not yet visible, but one destined to unfold beautifully in God's timing. With all this stirring within, Sarah held her breath as she considered a profound question whispered into her spirit. What would happen when each thread of faith combined into one tapestry of divine purposes? What stunning visions awaited just beyond the horizon of their shared journey? A quiet urgency washed over her. Their stories were just beginning to intertwine, but she sensed something magnificent was ready to unfold. What hidden depths of purpose awaited them? And how could she lead others to find their own divine threads woven through her journey? As the last echoes of the evening prayer faded into the stillness of the night, Sarah's heart danced with anticipation and trepidation. The warmth of connection lingered, but the shadows of uncertainty crept back in to tease her mind. How could she possibly lead such a sacred gathering? The thought sent tremors through her spirit, yet she felt a gentle, encouraging whisper promising that she wouldn't be alone. In the days that followed, Sarah woke with a renewed energy. The vision for threads of grace blossomed in her heart, and she often found herself daydreaming about their first meeting. How would it feel? Would people come? Would she truly be able to guide them toward healing and hope? As she navigated these questions, she began reaching out to individuals, inviting them to share their stories of pain and redemption. Each conversation became a thread in the tapestry she was weaving. One afternoon, Sarah sat with Jack at a quaint cafe. He shared his struggles with unemployment, and Sarah felt her spirit lift as she listened deeply. You know, Jack, she said, your journey is not just a burden, it's a story that can inspire others to see hope in dark times. Jack's eyes widened. You really think so? The weight of his worries seemed to lighten, if only for a moment. Absolutely. We all have stories that can bring light to each other's lives, she replied with conviction. You're not alone in this. Meanwhile, Mary, whose heart had been quietly aching from her immense loss, opened up during a quiet evening chat. I don't know if I can be part of something like this. My grief feels too heavy, she confessed, tears pooling in her eyes. Your grief is part of your story, Mary, Sarah responded gently. It will resonate with others who are in the same darkness. Together, we can find a way through it. Your voice matters. The tears that fell were not just signs of sorrow but seeds of healing taking root within the community. As the days turned into weeks, a palpable excitement filled the air in anticipation of their first meeting. The weight of doubts occasionally returned, but each time she would hold on to the truth that had begun to settle in her heart. God was with her. The vision of collected hearts sharing burdens and discovering strength together illuminated her path like stars guiding lost travelers. Finally, as the evening of their first gathering approached, Sarah could hardly contain the flurry of emotions coursing through her. She prayed fervently that God would bring the people he wanted into her midst. Let this gathering not just be mine but yours, Lord, she whispered, her heart yearning for guidance. A world of possibilities stretched out before her, pulsing with life and stories yet untold. On the night of Threads of Grace, Sarah stood nervously before a circle of faces, each holding their own tapestry of experiences. Her heart skipped as she glanced at the figures gathered. Some wore hopeful smiles, while others' brows were knitted in uncertainty. "Welcome, everyone," she began, her voice steady yet soft, filled with the faith that had gathered with her over the weeks. "Tonight, we embark on a journey together, a journey to connect our stories, to seek healing through sharing, and to find strength in unity. Each of us carries a piece of the divine purpose woven into our struggles. Let us uncover those together." As the night unfurled, laughter and tears flowed, slowly knitting together the fabric of their community. Yet, even inside this thriving moment, Sarah felt a gentle push in her spirit. It was clear there was more ahead, a deeper call still waiting to be answered. What came next would take them beyond sharing and healing. Their intertwined path would lead to revelations beyond their understanding, inviting them into a miracle of transformation. What divine encounters awaited them? And could she truly facilitate the unfolding of God's plan among them? In the quiet rustle of hope, a deeper mystery lingered, ready to awaken on the horizon. As Sarah looked around at the faces illuminated by the flickering candlelight, a sense of weightiness settled in the room. Each individual came with burdens, but also the glimmer of hope that perhaps tonight, something more profound awaited them. She sensed the Holy Spirit moving like a gentle breeze, urging her to step boldly into what he had prepared. "Let us share together," she continued, feeling emboldened. "Who wants to begin?" A moment of stillness enveloped them before Mary nodded slowly. "I think I'd like to share," she said, voice barely above a whisper. As she spoke, her voice wavered between sorrow and longing. "I lost my son a year ago. It feels like a dark tunnel, and I've been so lost I want to find light again, but sometimes it feels impossible." Sarah's heart swelled with compassion, and she took a step forward. "Mary, your courage in sharing your pain is a light itself. We're here with you." The words flowed from her, filled with sincerity. Around the circle, other faces mirrored Mary's anguish, recognizing the shape of their own sufferings reflected in her story. "I want to share too," Jack chimed in, glancing at Mary. "It's not the same, but I can relate to feeling lost. Losing my job felt like losing my identity. I've been so worried that I'll never find purpose again." As Jack's voice quivered, Sarah could sense the heaviness lifting a little among them, transformed by the bravery blooming in sharing. Each voice that joined the circle intertwined their stories, moments of despair and unease met with glimmers of hope and resilience. "Isn't it amazing how our stories connect us?" Sarah whispered, awestruck. "They bind us in our humanity. Pain and healing, woven together, show us that we're designed to endure together." One by one, they shared narratives that spiraled out of personal pain towards hopeful revelations. Laughter mixed with tears as they allowed the restorative power of community to envelop them. An inexplicable warmth grew in the air, wrapping around each person like a warm embrace. In that sacred moment, Sarah grabbed a small basket at her feet, filled with threads of various colors, each representing a different story or struggle. She began passing it around. "As we share, I invite you to take a thread that resonates with your journey. Connect it to our collective tapestry." She guided them in creating something beautiful from their stories. As threads were intertwined, each participant began to comprehend a shared mission, an unspoken desire to seek healing not only for themselves but for all surrounding them. A palpable shift occurred as laughter erupted, mingling with holy tears. "We're not just sharing pain," Jack said, smiling through tears. "We're creating community." As voices grew louder with excitement, Sarah's heart raced. She realized this gathering was becoming something more. It was morphing into a bridge of faith and renewal. God was moving in ways she had not anticipated. Yet, as the evening drew towards its close, the unshakable sense of new horizons loomed on the edge of Sarah's awareness. A pressing question emerged, buzzing like a celestial whisper, echoing in her heart. What comes next for us? What purpose does God have for this community beyond this moment? The inquiry lingered as an electric hum, promising mystery and revelation. Would they discover their divine purpose together? A delightful anticipation swirled within Sarah, igniting her spirit anew as they prepared for what lay ahead. As the last flicker of candlelight danced against the walls, an air of sacred expectancy filled the room. Faces once shadowed by despair now glimmered with newfound hope, a collective spirit alight with possibility. Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something divine was looming just beyond their grasp. Every shared story had built a bridge, connecting hearts in a way that transcended individual pain. She yearned to break through that barrier of the ordinary, to step into the extraordinary together. "Let us pray together," she suggested, her voice steady and warm. The group bowed their heads, an intimate hush settling like a soft blanket. The moment felt sacred, enveloped in a cocoon of faith. "Father," Sarah began, her heart swelling with gratitude, "we thank you for gathering us here, for each story shared, for the strings of our lives now weaving into something beautiful." As she prayed, Sarah felt a stirring in her spirit, a nudge that beckoned her deeper into the divine. "Show us our purpose, Lord. Guide us beyond this evening. Help us not just to walk through our pain but to walk in faith together." With each whispered amen that echoed softly in the circle, she sensed a transformation. It wasn't just a gathering. It was a movement, a divine orchestration of lives being knit together. Once the prayer ended, Mary looked up, her voice stronger now. "What if this became something more? What if we meet regularly like a family, where we can continue sharing, healing, growing?" Jack nodded, eyes glinting with fervor. "Yes, we could call it a support group, but really it's a place to nurture our faith, to hold one another up." The enthusiasm ignited as each person began to contribute, hearts racing at the thought of a spiritual family that could extend love and support beyond this evening. Ideas flowed like a rushing river. Prayer nights, study groups, community service initiatives. With every suggestion, there was laughter, sprinkles of joy amid tears, as hands connected in solidarity. But amidst the excitement, Sarah could feel a whisper in her heart, a lingering question urging her to listen closer. "God, what is the mission behind this?" As clarity began to unfold, she remembered the threads that connected them, the tapestry of life, woven with struggles and triumphs. This community could be a sanctuary, a beacon of divine light in an often dim world. They were meant to be more than just a group of friends. They were called to be vessels of healing, powerful carriers of hope, reigniting faith in others. Sarah's eyes scanned the room, seeing the passion fill the hearts surrounding her. What if we partnered with local charities? What if we used our gifts to bless others who are lost, just as we have been? She suggested, her voice trembling with excitement. The room erupted in a chorus of yes and amen, as eyes sparkled with possibility. They felt it, the pull of a divine purpose wrapping around them like a warm embrace, inviting them into the deep waters of faith. Yet, as jubilant laughter filled the space, an inner whisper echoed again. "But what does this mean for each of you individually?" Sarah felt a slight shiver run down her spine, the tingling sensation of the Holy Spirit mingling with uncertainty. Would each member embrace this mission as their own? What sacrifices lay ahead? And how would they navigate the bumps along this path of purpose? As they prepared to close their gathering, heartbeats synchronized with anticipation, Sarah knew they stood on the brink of something monumental. All that remained was to step into the unknown together. "Let us leave tonight asking him how he wants us to serve," she suggested softly, an invitation into the sacred wrestling with purpose. As the candles flickered one last time, the unanswered questions hung in the air like shimmering stars waiting to be explored. Would they unlock the mysteries of their mission? What divine plans awaited discovery in the days to come? As the last words settled, the group remained still, a mix of eagerness and uncertainty lingering like a fresh aroma in the air. Sarah's suggestion hung heavily, inviting a moment of reflection. Each one of them felt the weight of what was unspoken, a call to delve deeper into their commitments. Mary broke the silence first. "What if we shared not just our stories but our dreams too? What if our pain could ignite a passion for healing in others?" Her eyes shone with inspiration, like a bright light piercing through clouds. "Exactly," Jack chimed in, a wave of energy building in the room. We need to dig into who we are beyond our struggles. What gifts has God placed inside each of us? Faces lit up as the conversation flowed. One by one, they began to voice their dreams, desires, and even the fears that had kept them shackled. John, a quiet soul among them, raised his head slowly, his voice trembling but resolute. I've always wanted to help young people struggling like I did. Maybe a mentorship program could help, showing them their hope. That's brilliant. We all have something to offer. Sarah felt a swell of joy filling her heart as warmth enveloped the room. It was as if the very presence of God had descended upon them, knitting their spirits tighter with every word shared. Let us write them down, Mary exclaimed, grabbing a notepad and pen. A list of all our ideas. When we come back next time, we can decide where to start. With passion brewing, hands were raised, and ideas poured forth. They spoke of feeding the hungry, creating safe spaces for acceptance and love, and rallying together to uplift their community. But amidst this excitement, Sarah sensed the weighty call of deeper truths layered beneath. What if we also took a moment to pray about each idea tonight? To seek divine confirmation in what we believe we've been called to do. Voices murmured in agreement. The group shifted, laying aside their hopes and dreams before God, who had brought them together. As they prayed, Sarah could feel the atmosphere shift once more, each prayer lifting like incense to the heavens. Mingled with sighs and hope, something stirred. In the silence, Sarah closed her eyes and listened intently. Then, a sudden clarity washed over her, a vision of their future unfurling before her. She saw them, not just as individuals with heavy burdens, but as a mighty force, a community of healers, warriors of hope and love, arising to illuminate dark places. Opening her eyes, she looked at her friends. God is revealing a new identity to us. We are His vessels. We're not just here to comfort each other but to reach out. This can be a movement, a ripple of change starting right here. Energy crackled in the air, and each person felt a surge of affirmation. They were seated among fellow warriors, and their stories were no longer mere threads of sorrow but vibrant colors of an intricate tapestry there to bring change, healing, and divine light. As the meeting drew to a close, a collective whisper breathed through the room. They had boldly embraced a mission together, transcending their pasts, and now they grasped for the purpose ahead. Yet still, lingering questions arose. What challenges would they face as they immersed themselves in this work? Would they truly have the courage to pursue these divine paths, especially when trials came? With hearts full and spirits awakened, Sarah raised her hands, palms facing each other as if summoning the presence of the divine. Let us not leave with just excitement. As we part ways, let us also ask God to reveal our unique paths. What will you have us do, Lord? With that, they stepped into the night, hearts alive with purpose but minds dancing with the uncertainty of it all. What lay before them in the journey of faith? The stars twinkled above, an echo of Goddess promises waiting to unfold what awaited them on this path of discovery. And would they dare to pursue His purposes with unwavering faith? As dawn broke gently over the village, the soft hues of pink and gold spilled through the cracks of Sarah's window, bathing the room in warmth and whispering of hope. With a heart swelling with anticipation, Sarah knelt beside her bed and offered a prayer of gratitude for the journey ahead. The threads of grace that had bound her to her community were now woven together into a fabric of revival, their stories entwined, each one unique yet unified. Determined, Sarah dressed and made her way to the village square, where the whispers of yesterday's gathering still lingered in the air. She found a bench under the ancient oak tree, a spot where she could reflect and surrender her hopes for threads of grace to God. Memories of the shared laughter, tears, and promises floated in her mind. There was a sweet resonance, the murmurs of many hearts beginning to understand their called purpose. Suddenly, a group of children ran past her, their laughter ringing like a melody of innocence. For a moment, Sarah watched, a wave of peace washing over her. Hope, the very essence of life, was evident in their joy. And that was it. She yearned to carry that hope into the lives of others, to foster a sense of belonging and healing beyond the walls of their gathering. Her thoughts were interrupted by the approach of Pastor Thomas. his kind eyes sparkling with wisdom. "Good morning, Sarah," he greeted warmly, settling beside her. "You seem lit with purpose today." "Pastor," she replied, "I can feel it deep in my heart. God is calling us to step out past our pain and embrace the healing we're meant to share. Threads of Grace isn't just about us. It's a movement for this village." Thomas nodded, his brow furrowing slightly as he considered her words. "Indeed. But you know the journey to purpose is often paved with challenges. Are you ready to face them?" "More than ready," she declared, her eyes burning with conviction. "I've seen what community can do. I know the struggles that exist, and I'm excited to lead them forward. Jesus walks with us in every season. We just need to trust him." As they spoke, the village slowly began to awaken. Familiar faces appeared, women carrying wicker baskets and men discussing the plans for the week ahead. But today, the air was electric. Anticipation hummed, palpable and alive. Then, Miriam appeared, her golden hair glimmering in the morning sun. "Sarah, there you are," she exclaimed, rushing toward her. "I've been thinking about our next meeting. We need to plan a community service day, a chance to reach those who feel forgotten." "Yes," Sarah said, feeling a rush of enthusiasm at the thought. "What if we gather supplies, clean up around the village, and create care packages for families in need? We could involve everyone young and old." As they spoke, the excitement of dreaming together sent ripples through Sarah's heart. A plan began to unfold, woven tightly with intentions to serve and uplift. They envisioned banners of faith hanging in the village square, proclaiming hope. Soon, news of their gathering spread, igniting curiosity among the villagers. Footsteps began to pour into the square as neighbors dropped what they were doing, drawn towards the promise of something beautiful. Before long, Sarah found herself standing in front of a small but enthusiastic crowd, her heart racing with anticipation and humility. "Thank you all for coming," she greeted, her voice steady yet filled with emotion. "You all know the struggles we've faced, but today marks a new beginning. We want to weave our stories together not just to heal ourselves but to reach out and lift others. We've decided to host our first community service day, and we want each of you to join us as we step into action." A frenzy of reactions echoed through the crowd. Nods of agreement, excited murmurs, and hopeful smiles lit every face. Encouragement swirled around Sarah like a warm embrace, igniting the call to serve embedded in their hearts. "Imagine," she continued, "a day where our collective energy brings joy to those who feel lost or alone, where we can showcase God's love through our actions." Loud cheers erupted, mingling with clapping hands. In that moment, every doubt Sarah had faced in the past faded, replaced with an exhilarating flame of purpose. As the meeting closed, whispers of commitment filled the air, tangible promises exchanged between friends and neighbors. It was more than a service day. It was the birth of a movement, a beautiful awakening kindled by divine purpose. They would create a fabric of support in their village, an intricate design woven from their personal threads. Yet even as joy blossomed within her, she couldn't escape the thrill of uncertainty that danced at the edges. Challenges would come. They always do. How would they navigate setbacks? Would they remain steadfast during trials? But with every heartbeat, she felt a soothing reminder of God's presence, that his plans were greater than her fears. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky a stunning shade of orange, Sarah returned home, holding tightly to the hope that had bloomed within her. Their community held potential. Each soul represented a thread of divine purpose ready to shine. With eyes still alight from the excitement of the day, she gathered her children close and reflected on the journey they'd begun. Together, they could be the change, the hope, transforming their village into a sanctuary of love, healing, and faith. But it always began with small, courageous steps. As the final echoes of evening fell, Sarah smiled, knowing this was not merely the end of one chapter, but the beginning of an incredible journey ahead. The story was unfolding, and every heartbeat filled with anticipation of what God would do next. Now, dear friends, as we conclude this sacred journey, Do not forget that your stories are important. Your purpose is woven into the very fabric of our communities. Subscribe immediately to keep up with the next exclusive faith stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. You need to show your support. Comment your reactions and testimonies about this ending. Your voice matters. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this manifestation. Together, we can uplift one another in this beautiful tapestry of life.